Update of End Time Signs in the Headlines, brought to you by the Light of Life Ministry. Today is Sunday, July 20th, and here's a few of the headlines in the news as of recent this week. Former Governor of Alaska, Sarah Palin, has warned that the federal government is stockpiling bullets in preparation for civil unrest, adding that America is finished if it cannot deal with its debt problem. The post achieved nearly 12,000 shares, attracting nearly 60,000 likes and over 4,500 comments. Writing on her official Facebook page, Palin remarked, if we are going to wet our proverbial pants over 0.3% in annual spending cuts when we're running up trillion-dollar annual deficits, then we're done. Put a fork in us. We're finished. We're going to default eventually, and that's why the feds are stockpiling bullets in case of civil unrest. The Department of Homeland Security committed to purchasing around 2 billion bullets over the course of the last year, in addition to buying 7,000 fully automatic assault rifles last September. The agency referred to them as personal defense weapons. Although the mainstream media has played down the purchases as the feds merely saving money by buying in bulk, the ammo buys have contributed to shortages across the country. Iraq's Christians are told to convert or leave as church leader fears for future. So many Christians have left Iraq that the country's many historic sites of Christian interest will be little more than tourist attractions, says one church leader. The Chaldean Archbishop of Erbil Bashar M. Warda told Release International that Iraq's Christians have lost their trust in the land in the future, following years of hardship after the 2003 invasion and the latest ISIS onslaught. June was the first month in 1,600 years in which Mosul did not celebrate any Mass. The attack on Christians has become immense. In the future, I imagine Iraq becoming a country where you have many Christian sites just for tourism due to the families that are leaving, he said. ISIS has taken over large parts of Iraq, triggering a mass exodus from the region. Those fleeing included tens of thousands of Christians who left their homes with only a few possessions. There have been reports of terrible reprisals for those who do not obey the strict Sharia rules imposed by the militants, including beheadings and crucifixions. One man was reportedly forced to watch his wife and daughter be raped and killed by militants after the Christian family said they would not pay a poll tax for non-Muslims. Middle East Concern was reporting that Christians have been given an ultimatum this week to leave or face execution by midday Saturday. When U.S. troops invaded Iraq in 2003, there were at least 1.5 million Christians in Iraq. Over the last 10 years, significantly in the last few months, with the emergence of ISIS, that figure has dropped to about 400,000. In a region where Christians predate Muslims by centuries, over 1 million Christians have been killed or have had to flee because of jihadi persecution, while America is basically standing by and watching. This is the sad news that Breitbart's national security editor and one of the world's leading experts in asymmetric warfare, Dr. Sebastian Gorka, brought to Breitbart News Saturday, hosted by editor-in-chief Alex Marlow on Sirius XM Patriot Radio. Dr. Gorka explained that in the last 48 hours, ISIS, which is now called the Islamic State in Mosul, has painted the letter N for Nazarene on the houses of all surviving Christians in the city. ISIS has basically given an ultimatum to all the Christians left. You can either flee or convert to Islam, or we will kill you. A mass prayer was staged at the Western Wall on the Old City of Jerusalem on Saturday night for the welfare of soldiers fighting in Gaza on Operation Protective Edge. Several thousand people attended the rally in the capital, and the prayers were led by former Sephardi Chief Rabbi Shlomo Amar, with several other senior rabbis in attendance, including Kabbalistic rabbis David Batstri, Benyahu Shumiel, and Yaakov Aves. Chief Rabbi David Lau called on people to read passages from the Book of Psalms for the success and safety of the IDF, after the announcement that a ground operation was initiated on Thursday night. They are emissaries performing a religious commandment for the entire nation, and all of us must pray for their well-being and for them to return home in peace, the chief rabbi said. As well as calls for prayers and unity in Israel, the Zohar Rabbinical Association initiated a call for solidarity with Israel from diaspora communities, asking them to come and visit the country at this time. Senate Intelligence Chairwoman Dianne Feinstein thoroughly condemned Russian President Vladimir Putin for his role in empowering Ukraine's pro-Russian separatists during the interview with CNN on Sunday, largely laying the blame at his feet for the downing last week of Malaysia Airlines passenger jet. Regardless of Putin's level of involvement at the plane crash, Feinstein said the U.S. relations with Russia have dipped to a new low. When asked by CNN's Candy Crowley for if U.S.-Russian relations were now at Cold War levels, Feinstein did not hesitate. Yes, the California Democrat replied. A new federal earthquake map dials up the shaking hazard just a bit for about half of the United States and lowers it for nearly a quarter of the nation. The U.S. Geologic Survey updated Thursday its national seismic hazard maps for the first time since 2008. Taking into account research from the devastating 2011 earthquake and tsunami off the Japanese coast and the surprise 2011 Virginia trembler. Most of the changes are slight. Project Chief Mark Peterson says parts of Washington, Oregon, Utah, Oklahoma, Colorado, Wyoming, and Tennessee moved into the top 2 hazard zones. Parts of 16 states have the highest risk for quakes. Alaska, Hawaii, California, Oregon, Washington, Nevada, Utah, Idaho, Montana, Wyoming, Missouri, Arkansas, Tennessee, Illinois, Kentucky, and South Carolina. The threat of the Yellowstone volcano blowing its top has some people fearing the possibility, since a supervolcano eruption has the power of a nuclear explosion. But in the United States Geological Survey now says the Yellowstone earthquake threat is high. Then is there any reason to worry in the coming years? In an related report by the Inquisitor, a Mount Fuji eruption is feared since it said the famous Japanese mountain is in critical state. Yellowstone conspiracy supporters claim USGS is hiding earthquake data in order to prevent national panic. And when it was claimed the National Guard was preparing for an event at Yellowstone National Park, the conspiracy theorist websites took the information and ran with it. To a certain extent, these fears are justified. For example, the British Geological Survey claims that the threat of a supervolcano is more than likely than the dangers posed by global warming or World War III. Police officers in Arizona are searching for an arsonist who has burned several Bibles on church properties recently, even inscribing Hail Satan on one of the church's gates. According to the Arizona Republic, an unidentified arsonist in Mesa has torched Bibles on 6 different occasions since mid-May. The arsonist, who remains at large, is believed to be a white or Hispanic male in his teens or early 20s. 3 of the fires occurred at Mesa Baptist Church on May 11th, 17th, and 18th. Then in mid-June, the arsonist burned Christian materials at East Mesa Christian Church, Pilgrim Lutheran Church, and Calvary Baptist Church. In each case, church employees found the charred remains of a Bible or a burned pile of papers on church property. Officials described the incidents as bias crimes. U.S. Border Control agents on the American side of the Rio Grande were forced to take cover Friday night when high-caliber weaponry was fired at them from the Mexican side of the river, sources told FoxNews.com. The weapons were fired at the U.S. side of the riverbank on the area of the Rincon Peninsula across the Rio Grande from Reynosa, Mexico, at about 8:30 p.m., sources said. Bullets ricocheted into the area where Border Patrol agents were positioned. Representative Louis Gohmert, Republican of Texas, told FoxNews.com. Border Patrol sources confirmed Gohmert's account and said the shots may have been fired by 50 caliber weapons. We don't have any armor that can stop a 50 caliber round, so our Border Patrol agents had to take cover when the rounds were ricocheting around them, said Gohmert, who has been in the area for the last week to get a first-hand look at the border situation. When the shooting stopped, about 40 or 50 people came out of the U.S. side and turned themselves in. So clearly the rounds were being fired to suppress every effort to stop anybody intervening with anyone or anything coming across, Gohmert added. We have no idea what or how many or whom came across with the other illegal immigrants. While Saturday wasn't too hot or humid like most of our summer has been, 22 News found out that our recent weather conditions have contributed to the arrival of deadly disease in the Bay State. The Massachusetts Department of Health just confirmed that a July 15th laboratory test in Plymouth County, Massachusetts has tested positive for EEE, a dangerous virus that can cause inflammation of the brain, and in one third of cases, death. Even though the only reported case of EEE in Massachusetts was more than 80 miles to our east, our chances in western Massachusetts of getting it just went up. But it probably won't be the mosquitoes bringing it here. Birds are typically the long-range character of EEE, taking the disease over many miles. Mosquitoes then bite the birds and become the local source for infection when they bite a human. Entomologist Bob Russell of American Pest Solutions told 22 News mosquitoes are an unusual insect because bacteria can survive in its gut and then it can be regurgitated or come out in its saliva when it bites, and that's how you get the transmission. And lastly, a UFO cloud ejected a sphere or spheres over Maricunga, Chile on July 18, 2014. The footage there can be viewed by going to our blog at endtimesigns.wordpress.com. Also, feel free to visit us on Facebook, facebook.com/endtimesignsheadlines.com. Thanks for tuning in and have a great week. We'll be back with more End Times news headlines updates next week.